Right, okay, so this is part 7 of the Demonic Realm series. So this one, I'm just gonna see how this goes. Okay, so I was flicking through all the pages of my dream journal, and I found something a little thing I wanted to include between two dreams. But both of these dreams I'm going to go through with you are full dreams, you know. So I've never done an actual video for these just yet. So this may make it obviously quite a bit longer because I'm not summarising anything. I'm just going to be going through the dream as it is. Okay. So yeah, might be a bit of a longer video this one, but you should get a lot of detail in this one. So this one is I can't remember. Haven't really given it a name as such just yet, but I describe it a little bit like a Pokemon sort of attack that happens. So that makes sense as I describe it. And then there was another one that happened in a really similar way, which is why I want to kind of put those two together. So you've got those both in one video. So this all happened on the 9th of November 2024. So, right, so this is how it starts. So I dreamt of a knight that had come to a camp by night and possibly coming to surprise us. And he got caught and was placed under guard. Now, the knight looked like a typical Middle Ages crusader knight with a very large sword. A band of us with archers, bows, were looking to hold him captive. And then the dream suddenly switched, and it was like it was back to my childhood home bedroom. Okay, so this is me essentially saying how a dream that was going on just got hijacked. Okay, so I was dreaming about a crusader knight and stuff like that, and then suddenly, like, boom, right, change your dream completely. So that can sometimes happen, but yeah. Anyway, I thought I'd read that just so that made sense. So then it switches from me seeing knights and bows and arrows, you know, people with, you know, archers, bows and arrows and stuff like that. I used to actually be an archer. Did that as a what's it called? It's like a hobby for a few years. Anyway, so it switched and it switches to me being in my childhood bedroom. Okay, so and I was standing. So if you imagine um, the well the door to my bedroom is over there. It's in front of me. I've got my back against the wall, and I'm just looking this way in the dark in my bedroom. Okay. Yeah, facing towards the bedroom. The room was bigger than its true size. It was quite a small bedroom. I think I've described it possibly before, maybe in other videos, but it was bigger than the normal size of the room. The room was very dimly lit, and there was sort of, again, this kind of blue light kind of thing placed on the back wall. So it's almost like you were seeing it by moonlight, I guess, but it had a kind of a bluish tint to it. And I've described that many times as well, where you seeing things in the dark, but there's a bluish sort of hue to it. So that's what this was like. So dimly lit, bluish tint to everything, was being placed against the back wall that I was facing. So where I was, the back wall, it was all very dark, but over that side it was sort of just lit a little bit. And someone was basically pacing, the width of the room, just pacing up and down the width of the room, back and forth against the wall. And the person was roughly about 5 foot tall, I would say. So smaller than me, kind of hunched over as they were kind of walking. And I started to wonder, who is this in my room? Then it kind of turned and then made eye contact with me. As soon as it made eye contact with me, it launched at me. Okay, so it launched at me, but it had a knife in its hand, and it was a really short bladed knife. The sort of one that'd be really difficult to actually, get off somebody in a fight or something like that, because it's so small you can't really easily grip onto it. So it's a very short bladed knife, and I put both hands out, sort of straight armed like that, to just kind of brace. So imagine I've got somebody just racing towards me with a knife, and I'm just trying to put distance between me, my body, and them. So I'm kind of bracing. Where are we? arms out, straight on, yeah, yeah, double-handed fashion, yeah, to brace for him coming into contact with me at force because he's running, he's suddenly sprinting towards me. Um, yeah, a bit like you would brace against somebody who was you're about to get into a wrestling match with or something like that. And I was trying to get good footing, if that makes sense as well. So I'm putting my arms out here, I'm putting one foot behind the other one, and I'm trying to absorb the amount of force that's just going to hit me. Okay. Uh, yeah, yeah, okay. Against yeah. So the moment felt. Now this is why I call it Pokemon thing. Okay. So the moment felt like Pokemon, like Dragon Ball Z, all of that, those kind of, kind of Japanese like anime sort of cartoon things. It felt like that, where you see like the rushing air, and then when something's transforming or they're running towards something, and it does like that rushing air thing where you see like streaks and stuff. It literally looked exactly like that. It was really really weird. It felt very anime kind of thing. Um, and another example I gave, which was a bit more of a sort of like a almost like a rather than a cartoon, but a human interaction in that way, is the film Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which is a really good film. I really like that film. And that's like a mixed, that's sort of like a mixed reality sort of thing, where you've got obviously normal things going on with normal people, but it goes kind of comic-like and animated and stuff like that. It was very similar to that as well. Um, when this thing, it was a male. It's obviously a male. There was a male presence made contact with my arms and my shoulders. As I mentioned, I was in a bracing position. I was pushed. I was pushed back really, really far. And again, bearing in mind, as I've already mentioned, I was against the wall already. Okay, so it pushed me so far back that it didn't make any kind of sense now in reality. Because if there's a wall there, I would just be pushed up against the wall and that'd be it. But that's not what happened. I was kind of it was like I'm trying to stop a car. Is how I would how I would describe it. The car's still coming and I'm still bracing and I'm skidding backwards. So I'm going backwards and backwards. So in reality, I'd be through my neighbour's house and I'd probably be out until to the house beyond that. The amount of distance I'd got pushed back. So again, clearly, clearly otherworldly, in the way that it happened, way beyond obviously the reality of the actual structure of the home. I managed to temporarily, so it's a little bit like its momentum kind of waned to a point where I was able to overpower it in some way, and I made my way. I was kind of pushing, I guess, it over to the wall that it actually initially came from, where my light switch was. Okay, I flicked the switch on, but no light came on, and so I slowly backed out of the door. So as I said, the door was on that side of the wall that he was pacing up and down from. So I just kind of backed out of the door onto our sort of landing area, which I've described before, is where all the different bedrooms and bathroom and stuff all kind of come off of. So I've backed myself out into that area. And I started shouting for everybody in the house. I was trying to get everybody to wake up, and to see this thing. I was not overly worried, but wanted the family to actually see this, you know. But as I was shouting out, I felt the fear rising, that it was feeling. Oh, okay. I was picking up on the fear of this spirit being, and that it was going to be found out, and I felt it was feeling fear now. And I've mentioned this before. I remember mentioning that in the first video, where I had this thing that was just abusing me, and what's the word? Yeah, kind of in control and stuff like that. And then my wife, I heard like the click of the bathroom door, the lock on the door, and then I sensed the fear of this demon, and then it legged it. Another one as well, which I mentioned. I sensed the fear of it was in the airport lounge one that I've mentioned before. When again, if it was like when the tables turned, when it was in control and it was trying to put fear on me. As soon as I sort of started to realise and speak Jesus and think, and that kind of stuff, then the fear came on their side, which I also sensed, because it's like you're connected. Anyway, Anyway. So yeah, this is weird, right? I was getting kind of like a Tom Cruise vibe from it. I don't know why, not sure why, but slightly shorter. Um, but obviously it was way too short to be him. But it was more of the description. It felt like what he was wearing and stuff, which was weird in itself because, as I said, I came out of it thinking Tom Cruise, but I don't know why. Um, Again, it obviously wasn't Tom Cruise. I'm just saying this was just a vibe, a wave of something being communicated to me. That's what came to mind. But I remember what it was actually wearing. It was wearing like a baseball cap, a blue and white baseball cap, and I think it was also wearing like a baseball jersey as well, white blue like pinstripes, blue pinstripes on a white um, top. No idea why I got that impression. I was of course concerned about this knife that it had, but as soon as looking to ex- uh, I was looking to explore it and was able to match it. Okay, so yeah, so I was able to obviously match its energy to a certain extent in controlling its movement. I was able to push back. It started to look over my shoulder to my brother's room. Okay, so it was kind of, I don't know what it was thinking, and to my mum's room, that kind of area, whose doors are also close by. Um, but was worried that they were going to obviously. It was like he was worried that the others were going to come to my aid in some way, because he knew that they were in there as well. Um, yeah, there we go. I think someone did actually come out in the dream um, onto the landing to flick on the landing light or something like that, which I'd almost pulled him out, pushed him out, this spirit out to that area, and now the light came on. I tried to flick my switch, couldn't get it on, but somebody had flicked on the landing light and that had come on. Uh, which again, I've put on here in brackets, which could have been God, essentially shining a light on it, which is why it was scary. I woke up and yeah, this is like around about six a.m. It looks like that this sort of happened, um, which yeah, that's yeah unusually late, early for that type of dream. So a lot of them tend to happen early night. 3 o'clock in the morning is a favourite, that sort of thing. Um, uh, yeah, okay. I've got some general thoughts here. I mentioned, yeah, I felt obviously I felt like this night dream I was having just got suddenly hijacked. It felt very sinister the way it was obviously pacing up and down and trying to intimidate me before it struck. And it reminded me even of the first Ghostbusters film, where you've got this lovely librarian, that's all, and they're all calm and stuff like that, and then it suddenly pounces. It was sort of like that, although I didn't sense a peace at all. And I thought, as I said, this is the first time I've had that kind of Pokemon-y, Scott Pilgrim, sort of anime imagery. Okay, and as I said, this does happen again. Um, I just want to quickly read through this because there's some other bits and pieces here. Yeah, I thought it was just a dream, obviously, until this thing attacked, and then I knew that it was a spiritual attack. So this is again one I would classify as a demonic attack. Demonic attack when you're in an actual dream, but a dark presence comes in and, as I said, hijacks it. I said it's a little bit like Inception, where you the dreamer sense that something is coming into your dream that is not your consciousness creating it. Okay, so as I said, that's like the Inception film. So that's what I felt. But when I was, yeah, but when I was, yeah, I could actually detect a spirit. Um, I felt a tingling feeling. It says here, felt a tingling feeling. I could actually feel a tangible interplay between the entity spirit and my spirit. Um, I don't recall ever having that before, where I could actually feel this interaction between the two spirits. So it's almost like you can get some weird feelings through sleep paralysis as well, especially sleep paralysis when you actually go into the spirit realm and you're out of your body. This wasn't an out of body. This was, as I said, this was a dream where it's come in and attacked. Um, yeah, but it had that kind of quality to it where, as I said, I was starting to feel something, not just in my body, but actually in my spirit. And again, as always, this is, the Holy Spirit is just like, waking me up to this being an attack. But yeah, strange mixed reality one. Okay, so I'm just going to move on from that one. Um, I kind of thought in a way afterwards, well, what happened if it had actually stabbed me? What difference would that, would that have made any difference? Now, there was a dream, I don't think I actually mentioned it. It was so minor, I don't think I bothered putting it in. But there was one where I did get attacked and I did get stabbed in a spirit sort of sense. I don't know what that would have done, if anything. Now, I'm gonna do this as like a little bit of a sandwich here. So I'm now going to put in a really positive interaction because again, this seems like too small a thing to make a whole video over. So, or will I? Yes, I will actually. I'm going to make a whole video about that. Sorry. Yeah, I won't put that in because we're already 15 minutes in anyway. So I'm going to go straight to the other one. So now we've finally finished book one, okay, of spiritual attacks. So now we're into book two. As I mentioned previously, I'm now into book three. I've only just started up book three, and these are 145 pages each. So this one, as I said, this is the one that has got the. Oh, cool. Okay, sorry, I have actually mentioned this one before. So this one has got its own video. Excellent. Right, okay. That's going to shorten this down a bit then. So this was on the 8th of the 4th, 2025. So I think the last one was the last one was 9th of November 2024. So this gives you an idea of the huge gaps. The longer into my the longer into my Christian life, the less and less frequent that these were actually coming through. So this was, as I said, we've gone from November, and I've explored every page just to make sure I've not missed anything, and I haven't. So this was like the next one really, and it was pretty much exactly the same as the previous one. I've just gone through that Pokemon kind of attack. So I'm going to summarize this one. So please go into the library of videos. You'll find this one under Cartoon Clone, I think it's called. It definitely has a word clone in it, because I remember that. But this has been gone through in full. So, yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly summarize this one, and then I'll try and trim this video down a bit. Okay, so yeah, so this one is basically set in a theme park. I have lots of theme park dreams. I haven't actually even filmed all of them. There's been several. I don't know why, and there's even ones that I remember having, but I never wrote down. Don't know why. I never think about theme parks. It's never something that's on my mind, and I never see any advertising for it. But weirdly, I get loads of theme park dreams. This one, set in a theme park, and I'm going to go straight off of memory now. Okay, so yeah, so I'm in a theme park, and I'm kind of walking down, like the snaking kind of queue to get into like a roller coaster ride or any kind of ride. You know what I mean? And this one was kind of like undercover. It was a little bit dark. It felt like it was nighttime. I'm pretty sure it was nighttime. And I was in the queue, and I just sort of stopped, and I felt like I was feeling a bit weird. And other people were just sort of walking past us and still going through the queue, but I just sort of stopped, and I was leaning on my wife, and I was sort of saying, I don't feel right. I don't, obviously you don't want to go on a ride if you're not feeling great. Again, I'm going from memory now. So, and what happened was, I was an observer, so I wasn't looking through my own eyes. I was looking as an observer, slightly back from my body. I'm looking at my wife there, who's looking concerned, and I'm just kind of like propping myself up on her shoulder, put my body weight on her a bit, and I'm sort of saying, like, I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling great at all. And what happened was, I could actually see my spirit separating from my body. It was just sort of coming out slightly, and I wrote here something like it was like 1 foot from my actual physical body. And again, what I want you to think of here is the figure that came out looked like a cartoon version of me. So again, like an anime version of me. So obviously look at my hair like right now. Yeah. So how this would look very different. So it actually, I did have a point, not so much when I was with my wife actually, but I did have like quite spiky hair. It was quite long, and I used to sort of spike it, sort of. But this was like really extreme, like super big, almost like Sonic-like spikes coming out. But it was like a dark sort of body that you could sort of see through, because obviously it was spirit, so you could sort of see through it. But it was dark, and it had a deep blue kind of outline to it, which was blue. Again, if you've seen many of these videos, and even other videos, plenty of other videos, the spirit realm always seems to appear blue. Not, well, almost always. I'm struggling to think of something that isn't. The only one that I would say that hasn't been blue, that's been another colour when I've seen any kind of light to anything, was one I filmed yesterday. I think it was yesterday. That was called Tombstones, where there was a tombstone that was lit up, and that was lit up with purple light. That's the only time I've ever seen another light, really. There's another one that I'm going to film actually, where it had spots of blue light and also yellow, but these were just little spots of light. It wasn't like a full outline or anything like that. But this was a full outline, and as I said, it was all dark, and this spirit looked all limp. So it was like it was imitating, or my spirit was imitating how I was feeling, my physical body, and then it switched, and then it was basically where this same spirit was above my bed. Now I was actually in my bedroom. Now I can't tell with this one whether this was, again, it was a demonic attack, so same in the other way. So as I said, I wouldn't classify it as a sleep paralysis. I wouldn't classify it as a nightmare because of a spirit interaction with me. Okay, so and as I said before, a nightmare is generally something that you've watched on TV. You've watched, I don't know, some sort of slasher movie or something like that, and surprise you end up dreaming about something, which is obviously your mind, but also you're opening yourself up to that. It's like you're enjoying watching that. Well then, okay, well you can have a demon that will feed you that kind of dream. Those kind of dreams are just not from God. Okay, so this time it's above my bed. So this is again like going back to Ghostbusters, actually going back to that initial Ghostbusters I mentioned earlier. So if you there's a bit where it shows the character Ray who's sleeping, and there's a female body that is sleeping above him, like 3 feet or something like that above him, and he's in that he looks like he's kind of like, ooh, like I've got a woman that's all floaty and really attractive, this spirit. These kind of spirits, just do visit people, and there's a sexual aspect to it. Again, I won't go into the detail of what that's all about, but there are some videos out there, people's experiences, testimonies, and stuff like that have been. There's some wild ones to do with female and ritualistic acts and stuff like that happen. Anyway, so this one. So this was almost exactly the same sort of thing. So I'm switched from this being in this theme park environment to now being in my bedroom looking up at this spirit. Now, what was different? Okay, so even if this was a sleep paralysis, which I would suggest this now switches into potentially, because this was then a lot more full on. Okay, so that tends to be more of a sleep paralysis one. So maybe it's kind of, I've come out of the dream now, and now I'm into a sleep paralysis where I'm actually in my bed, in the real life, in real time. It wasn't the kind of quality that I've mentioned before, where it's all black and white and it's all very fuzzy and heavy weighted. It was, I'm in my body. I'm in my body. My spirit's in my body, but it's almost like this spirit was already there, but I was being attacked. So yeah, spoiler alert. That is not my spirit. Where in the previous part of the dream, what I saw was a spirit coming out of my body, and it looked like a cartoon version of me. Okay, like as I said, like an anime version of me. And I'm looking up at it. At this point, I still think it is. All right, so I'm in my bed. I'm looking up at this spirit, and we're just like eye to eye looking at it. It's doing like looking at me, sort of smiling, and then lips are moving and stuff like that. And it's mirroring me, okay. But there's a moment where it drops its guard a little bit and doesn't mimic me properly, and I realise you're not my spirit, are you? And then the attack comes, okay, and then it just launches at me. Again, like the first dream that I talked about, just launches at me. But obviously, I'm in a bed, and it's actually only roughly about 5 or 6 feet above me. So roughly where let's say roughly the height of the ceiling would be. I mean, it'd be a bit higher than that, but it's that kind of thing. It's pretty much on the ceiling. And then it launches at me. It strangles me. I can feel its thumbs, on my windpipe, and it's like really going for me. And I start actually calling out for my wife, in this scenario. So I wasn't calling out for Jesus immediately. I was calling out for my wife first, and I'm like trying to wrestle this thing that's really going for me. Of course, I can't overpower it. I'm really struggling. Then and then I think of course. And I start calling out for Jesus, of course. And after wasting all that time, obviously calling out for my wife, no offense, but wasting all my time calling out for anybody other than Jesus, I should have just gone straight to Jesus, obviously, and then I would have obviously got out of it far quicker. But then I woke up. Guess where my wife was? In the bathroom. These attacks almost always exclusively happen, for me anyway, when my wife is not there. Okay, very rarely is my wife there. As I said, all of these attacks always happen, obviously, in bed, obviously, because I'm dreaming. But what I mean is, so many of the times I'll wake up and she won't be there. You know, she's not there. What that means, I think personally, is that these spirits are these dark demonic forces are incredibly cowardly, and they do it in a scenario. They time it in a way because they're just waiting, they're hanging around, perfect opportunity. They're opportunists, right? She's gone out, perfect. Let's go. Let's do it now. An attack. And it's so I feel like it's so there's no witnesses, and so that when it comes to all this kind of stuff, and I tell my wife about this happened, that happened, you know, that it discredits me. That's what it feels like. Okay. That's really all to say on that. I had more thoughts and more detail and stuff actually in the full video, so still go back and watch the full video of that one, as I said, which is called, I think it's called, as I said, Cartoon Clone, or I'm pretty sure it is called Cartoon Clone, but that's the end of this one. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to go on to another one now, and yeah, and this is then going to stretch from. I'm already in here exactly halfway through book 2, so there's been a big gap here between the attacks. So this is why I haven't really got much material now. So I'm going to go find the next one and see if I can get another video done and see if I can incorporate this new one that's happened. There's been a couple of new ones actually that happened, but for context, I went on holiday. I went on 2 separate locations, not big ones like 3 days, 4 days, that kind of thing, in the UK, but 2 different locations. Surprise, surprise, you go to a different location, and it's almost like the area hasn't been sort of spiritually cleansed. You've got all sorts of people's baggage that they maybe have taken with them spiritually, that are in these rooms. So whenever you go to a hotel room, stay anywhere overnight, always pray, and say something along the lines of all dark demonic forces, anything here from anybody that stayed here before, any demon that inhabits this area, any doorways, any avenues into this room, I shut them down in Jesus' name. And then ask for angels to come and to protect the area, surround the area, almost like guards at the door, and stuff like that, just to make sure that you don't get any of these kind of attacks. I'm not sure whether I did ask that. I sometimes do, but sometimes I forget to be honest. But I certainly did have. I'm pretty sure I had one of these attacks while I was on my holiday. I mentioned about previous ones where I was in London. I ended up talking about the Gypsy Rose incident, where an actual gypsy woman in London gave me a rose, and I had an attack straight after that. Shocker. Anyway, so that's this one. I'm going to leave it here. I wanted to get it under half an hour. I've just about achieved that, and I'll get the next one sorted. Okay, right, see you soon.